I felt frustrated for them. It was 2 new people, and we hold meditation in the middle of the day, like 30 minutes. And you could just come in off the street and take meditation for a donation. And it was only 2 people, and she sat down. It was her second time she ever meditated. And unfortunately, we had an instructor in the next room, and he was a little bit louder than he should be, but these things happen. So she kept moving her space, like from one side in the middle to another. And I was doing a visualization, and it was over. And I said, I'm sorry, it was a little loud, but honestly, that is part of the practice. There will be the dog barking and the phone might ring and the leaf blowers might be outside. And she was irate. She was like, well, I'm really unhappy. This is really uncalled for. And, she's like, I'm not mad at you, but I came in and I have more anxiety now than I did before. And I'm like, oh. And I tried to explain the idea of a practice to her, like just what a practice is. Right. And that her just coming on a Saturday, it really to go home. So I said, how about if we just change this for a moment? Can you sit for 5 minutes every day? She's like, and do what? And I'm like, just sit, put your timer on your phone. Clearly everyone has a smartphone or some phone or anything, and just sit for 5 minutes and notice your inhale and exhale, but do it every day. Do it every day. That's the thing, or do it as often as you can. And so, right. Because they're waiting for this aha moment, they're waiting for the clouds to part and, Jesus to step forth, and there's no whatever. Yes. And I said to her, you're going to have your thoughts, but it's the practice. It's coming back to the practice. And that's what I'm hearing from you. So it probably has a lot to do with listening, knowing. This is all part of intuition, listening, knowing, feeling, and also just feeling that connection. So is it a lot to do with mindfulness, or like similar to that?
The biggest piece when you're getting started is that you're just really heightening your awareness around your relationship to food and your relationship to your body, because they both play into each other. When you really can't have a good relationship with food without having a good relationship with your body, and vice versa. So I think that, it is a practice. It's raising that awareness, but it's also getting rid of like the perfectionism that comes with it. And like you said, it's like, that's what I experienced when I first started here, is that like, I would see all of these women come to me and be like, okay, give me the plan, because this work is the emotional work that goes along with meditation and with intuitive eating and with healing your relationship with your body it can be exhausting. Like, it's a lot if you're really have been grappling with this stuff for a long time. And so it's quite easy to see like an infomercial or a magazine article about this like new diet or this new thing. And you're like, great, I can just do this plan and then my life will be different. But this really is like a practice. And some days you're going to feel awesome and you're going to be in it, and it's like flow, and you're eating when you're hungry and you're stopping when you're full, and your body feels amazing and you have really good energy. And then some days you're going to be like driving like to work late because your alarm didn't go off, and you're going to maybe grab breakfast on your way out, but maybe not. And you're not going to drink a sip of water until 4:00 in the afternoon. And then you're probably going to have like a big giant bowl of pasta and meatballs for dinner and then call it a night. And that's fine. Like, I think that it's just about knowing that that's just something that happens versus like, oh, that was a bad day. So there's not really any good or bad that comes along with it. It's just being a little bit more aware of your practices.
And so when you work with people, do you work with them one-on-one, or do you work with them in groups?
Mostly one-on-one.
Okay. So if I guess there's also the support. Obviously, they have you as support, and that's always big in anything you're trying to change or shift, because, a lot of this is conditioning from what you know, and that's all you know, and majority of people do. So you're kind of coming out, you're coloring outside the lines a little bit. So the support is probably extremely important for everybody. Do you mostly have women, or is it mixed, your clients?
I have one male client right now, and he feels very excluded because I work with mostly women. Right. They just seem to be like more in my experience, I shouldn't generalize, but just in my experience, most of the women are like, excited to kind of come in and like have the conversations. Whereas a lot of the men I see are like, tell me exactly how many calories to eat and tell me exactly what to do. And I promise I'll do it. And I'm like, so mostly women.
Well, there's the gender difference sometimes. And again, generally speaking, I know it's not always the case, but men tend to be more black and white and women tend to be more gray. And that's why whenever I speak about intuition in general, or I've done speaking engagements, there is something to say that women's intuition or even mother's intuition, they don't say, male intuition, so we tend to have a little bit more of that. So, that's not for everybody, you guys. So,
yeah. So it's funny because sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh no, it's okay.
But I always think about this, like whenever I have conversations about my business with my boyfriend, because I definitely have like more of that like intuitive, creative mind. And he's always like, how is this going? Like, how much revenue is this going to bring in? And so like, it's definitely like a nice yin yang, but sometimes I'm like, can you just shut up? Like, can you not talk about that for just 1 second? It's interesting.
The truth. It's the black and white and then the gray of it all. Yeah. So let's say someone's listening. Let's just say it's a woman for the sake of argument. And this is sort of new to her. What is one thing, like the intuitive eating?
Yeah.
What is one small action or one small, maybe even mindset shift that she could do today if she listened to us or listened to the podcast?
So mindset shift, I would say to really work to heighten your awareness. And I like to say this is like become a food anthropologist and see if you can go throughout the next few days or even a few weeks and just notice what your eating patterns are. Because that's always the first step to this. It's not about going home and automatically changing everything that you're doing. It's just seeing what am I doing now and seeing if you can approach it with more curiosity than judgment. So I had a hard-boiled egg for breakfast, and then I'm hungry an hour later. That's interesting. Maybe I had to eat something else, or maybe something totally different happens. But I think just seeing if you can kind of heighten the awareness around your actions, and then also look at them without judgment. That's always like the asterisk, like that. That's the key is to be able to not say like, oh, that was so bad or that was really good. Like there's no gold stars and there's no bad things either, but it's more about, just being curious and seeing, what questions can you ask and how can you dig a little bit deeper?
I like that. And it's anyone can do that. So it's just looking at the next day or two, or maybe a few days and noticing when they're hungry, noticing when they're not hungry, noticing what food they want at the time. And because I think what happens a lot of times is that's not what happens. What happens is, okay, it's Monday morning and I'm going to get up. I'm just using starting fresh. It's Monday and I'm going to do this plan and lose X amount of weight. If it's a weight loss thing, lose X amount of weight, blah, 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 and then it's like, you're eating what you're told to eat. You're not thinking about what you want. If you wanted, I think I read somewhere, or maybe it was on your most recent podcast, that someone said the studies show that that's actually when you can adopt the practice of intuitive eating, you actually eat pretty you eat pretty well for your body and you eat enough. It's not like you're going haywire. Is that, right? I think I read that. I think I heard that recently on your show.
Yeah. Well, my colleague Marcy Evans says that intuitive eating is like combining the knowledge you have of nutrition, so external knowledge, with the wisdom of your body. And I love that because it's not ignoring the fact that we do have some research about nutrition. Like we know that some foods are healthier or more nutritious, I like to say, than others. And so it's not kind of ignoring that, but it's getting rid of like the morality. And so when you can do that, when no food is good or bad, and you can actually say what you were just saying, what do I really want right now? And then your body goes, I kind of want pizza. instead of saying, oh no, I can't have that. That's bad. That's not on the plan. See if you can have it and then really try and like savor the satisfaction, like see how satisfied you can get from that experience. And that's where that mindfulness practice comes in really handy. It's not feasible for everyone to do that at every meal and every snack all the time. Like we have to plan and we have to eat foods that are convenient sometimes. But I think that if you can really think about getting more satisfaction out of the food, you tend to, be able to eat enough to satisfy you versus feeling like you have to overdo it because you're never going to have that food again.
Exactly. I can definitely see how that can start to really become, again, like you said, a practice. Like you get into the mindset of it. And maybe when you go for, say it's a slice of pizza, let's use an example. If you choose the slice of pizza and you're mindful to some degree eating the slice of pizza, because that's part of it, right? This whole mindful eating. Perhaps you won't have 3 slices. So you'll say, well, if I can have this, I don't have to overdo it because it's always there. It's not like it's forbidden. And I think that's the other part. Like when it's the forbidden foods, over time, you're like, of course, if someone, said you can never have chocolate again, all you're going to think about is wanting chocolate,
Exactly. Yep.
So I love that. Yep. So the question of intuition. So if I asked you, what is your definition of intuition?
I love that. I love that question. I love that question. It's such a good question. I think that intuition from my perspective is truth. It's getting rid of this is right or this is wrong or this is good or this is bad. It's like, this is just what is. And I think that it's always kind of saved me from, like going down, like I said, that people pleaser person in me is like, okay, I'm going to do this thing because it's like, it's right and it's good. And then my rebel or my intuition comes in and it's like, no, like you're not going to do this thing because that's not what you want to be doing. And you're kind of like, I feel like when you're forcing something, you're to either be good or be bad or be right or wrong, then your intuition's kind of like, I'm out. But so I think it's truth. I think it's just the thing that is. And if you can always kind of come back to that, it makes it so much easier to listen to it.
It's great. It's the truth that we can listen and trust. And they talk a lot about that. And then another intuition question. So in your business, is there a moment or something that you felt like you really listened to your intuition in business, that either you created a program or maybe just starting the business or following something or anything you want to share? More in the business part. I know your business is part of intuitive eating, but in the whole sense of your business as you. Yeah.
I think a couple of instances was first, just starting my business. I worked for Whole Foods for a few years. I was doing marketing for them. And I had reached a point where I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, this is not fun. I don't like this. I really miss doing this type of work. I wasn't training anymore. I just had kind of like, I think I got burnt out on it. And so that's why I ended up getting this other job. And it was like, I like made the decision that I was going to leave. And then like within a few months, I was out. And so that was definitely a time where I felt like I kind of took that leap of faith. But then also in doing the work that I do now, like I was so trained in this weight loss paradigm and this kind of more traditional way of looking at nutrition and fitness. And to be honest, it's a lot easier to market yourself when you can promise that you're going to help someone lose weight or get the body that they want. And I just felt like my intuition at that point was like, no, like, why are you doing this? And it just, I reached a point where I was like, okay, I can't do it anymore. And it was just like overnight, it like everything kind of clicked and shifted. And I was like, okay. And it's like, you feel so much better when you do that. Like it's like weight lifts off of you and you're not, I don't know, feeling weighed down anymore.
And it's also, I always find those aha moments people say, it usually comes with a risk. Sometimes there's like a risk to say, I'm going to do something different or I'm going to step out in a different way. And then the action comes, right? So first it's like, oh, I'm going to do this. I got it. And then of course you have to deal with it, right? Mm-hmm. But the